Are you awake now? Waka
How
waka.
could you not be?
I'm telling you, right?
That could have been the song of summer instead of Despacito.
Jaci Russo joining us in studio. The Jaci Russo.
Why, thank you.
I'm sorry, but you are your own
I
brand.
am indeed.
You are your own brand.
I am indeed.
So, all right, speaking of brand,
Yes.
branding, and recruitment, you speak of this a lot this morning.
Well, recruiting is such a big thing. You know, whether you're recruiting customers
Yeah.
or clients
Right.
or employees, it's all about building the brand. And so to build the brand properly, you have to have the right team in place because so much of your branding efforts comes from your team, your employees. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who are really communicating with the public.
They're really saying, okay, we've got this message. This is the message that they have expressed to us,
Right.
whether it's one owner or a conglomerate of 12.
Right.
And they're the folks that have to go be the troops and do it.
Absolutely. I mean, think about Apple with the Genius Bar. Mm-hmm. It's the people you come in contact with at the Apple store that leaves the lasting impression because you go in there with a problem. And if you leave happy, well, then Apple has hired the right people and trained them properly.
Yeah. But if they don't leave happy, then boy, doesn't that just...
And then you have $1,000 paperweight in your pocket.
So what do you do? How do you reinforce that for people that, look, it matters because the next person we're looking to bring on our team needs to also understand what you already have been taught?
Absolutely. It starts with knowing who you are.
Okay.
So you have to have a clearly defined being. You have to know what your organization is about. That way you can attract people who will support that vision. You don't want to have this kind of vague idea of who you are. We kind of want to be this, but we kind of want to be that. We want to try to be all things to all people. Well, then when someone gets there, they don't know who you are, so how do they recreate that and live that every day? They can't.
There's no way to, right? Because they don't know what they're supposed to be delivering.
Exactly. Then you have to know how to train them so that they can carry out that mission and that vision of who you are.
Yeah.
So the training process is very important.
So who do you leave the training to? I mean, in your mind, is it just the person who gets it the most? Or should it, because, you know, often some people really get it and they're better at training a fellow employee.
Absolutely. So the ones who have that skill set, that like their calling probably was to be a teacher, you definitely want them to be in charge of it and they run with it as their mission. But everybody is a trainer. Whether on purpose or by example.
Okay.
And so if you're the kind of company that leaves the dirty dishes in the sink, well, the new employee is going to think, I leave the dirty dishes in the sink too. And so everybody's setting the example. If you're the kind of company where the last person in the bathroom doesn't change the roll of toilet paper, well, the next person's not going to either. And so you want to set that good example where everybody's working hard to establish who you are and what you're about. You want to be a good roommate in your company.
So do you go out with recruitment with a certain kind of thought in mind on where you're going to look for these people?
Absolutely. You want to have, first in your mind, you want to have an idea of who the right people are. And, you know, I'm not talking about any sort of narrowing too much on age or gender or race, but more about the kind of people they are.
Right.
How they see the world, what their view is, how they want to be treated, how they treat other people. And then you want to put those breadcrumbs out everywhere because you never know where the right person is going to come. But your strongest recruiting effort typically is from within.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to attract people like me.
Right.
And people that I want to work with. I mean, we're together 8, 9, 10 hours a day. You want to enjoy the people you're with. And so then those efforts obviously go to online, job sites, job fairs, etc., your own website. But it's got to start with that internal effort because you want people to recruit people that they like.
Yeah. So is that the number one thing that you would advise people? Look within first, see who your employees' friends are, who their contacts might be.
I would start with first knowing who you are and what you're about.
Yeah.
And then secondly, using your tools internally, that internal network, promote from within and then recruit from within and then move into the outside world.
So if somebody's out there and they are looking for a job, is there one big thing that you give them the test about?
Yeah, I would tell you, based on the number of resumes I get every week, the first test is you have to be able to spell all the words right.
Okay, that's a good thing.
I mean, you would think that that's rare.
Right.
But it is amazing to me how rarely I get a resume that doesn't have an error, a typographical, spelling, just stupid mistakes.
Really?
Yeah.
So make sure you're proofreading.
Really.
Understanding.
Well, and it's sometimes it's so simple as they're obviously sending out the resume and the cover letter to a lot of companies.
Right.
And so they leave last company's information in this company's email. Yeah. So
I
get that.
love the opportunity to talk with you about why I can help with the expansion of your company.
Well, and it's
Target.
Yeah, and it's
Walmart.
funny because they'll go through, I can't wait to work for XYZ. Yeah. I think XYZ is a great company. And I'll write them back and be like, then you should apply to XYZ.
Yeah, talk to their hiring manager.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, my bad. I'm like, dude, my bad. It's not going to work in an interview process.
No, probably not.
So what you just said, Jackie, you just said that somebody must be totally conscientious and take pride in what they do and how they present themselves. So have you ever said, well, it's just one little error? Have you ever gone with a person that maybe some of your gut says had a question mark about, and that person either worked out or did not work out? Because I've been told by people who have to hire that that's one of the toughest parts of, building the business.
Well, I think that applying for a job is like applying for college, right? And so to make that analogy, when you have a whole bunch of 4.0 students, they come in with a great resume, they spelled every word right in the cover letter, then it's easy to eliminate a 1.5 student who misspelled things in the cover letter, showed up for the interview in shorts. So that's easy to weed out. Then when you're left with all those really great, exceptional people, you dig a little deeper. That's when you get into social media. You look to see, and that's what we do with applicants too. We look to see what their online presence is. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to weed out on that initial stuff. Then you get down to the creme de la creme, the top 2, 3, 4 candidates that come highly recommended from the internal team. We know them. They know us. They've had great success in other places. Then it's tough.
So when you're talking about social media, I mean, some of the obvious things I think most people are thinking of right now for themselves. But what would be some less obvious things about social media that people, I think, never even realize are damaging their reputation?
Well, I think that you can tell pretty quickly on social media if somebody's a hothead.
Yeah.
If they quickly lose their temper over small things. If road rage, they live in road rage, though. It's not just when they're driving. It's in other aspects of their life. It's the checkout girl. It's the drive-through window. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's how they treat service people that comes through in social media. So there's a lot of things that'll come through about your character that gives an employer a real good eye as to whether or not you'd be a good part of the team.
Wow. Pay attention to that. All right, where can we go to find more information?
RaiseYourBrandingBlog.com.
Right.
And you can always go to the podcast.
I was just about to ask you that,
Thank you very much. We're still doing well. We need a few more reviews to put us over the top. So,
well, go look at it, Joe. Let's go look and review and say what you think.
Really, it's so simple. Just on your phone, you click the podcast, you click 5 stars, we're done. It's 2 seconds. But it's going to be, I think a fun thing with the podcast, because now we're starting to get feedback from people saying, hey, I want this topic or I want that topic. And it's allowing us to really expand what we talk about.
Okay. Yes. Mark?
Well, you were going to, how much time we have?
Oh, we have a couple minutes.
Okay, so let me ask you this one. This is, this
Moon
is
can wait.
not a weird question, but give me the etymology. What's the origin of branding? How long has it been with us? Who came up with this? Could you go somewhere and say, and so in this book in 1989?
It comes from farmers. Farmers. So
Farmers.
Way back in the day, before we were an industrialized society, when we were still ruled by agriculture, and you had farmers on the plains who had the nice fat beef that had fed well on the good grass, and when they put a brand on their cow, then you had the farmers in the mountains who had the skinny beef, who was not as well fed and not as nourished. And so their meat was a little tougher and not as tender, and they had a brand on their cow. When they go to town, the people of the town would flock to the brand that they came to know and love as being the better tasting meat.
And I knew that, and that's good info. But what I'm asking is, who grabbed that and brought it into our 21st century?
I'm not sure. It's probably some college professor on some campus somewhere that took that analogy in a class one day and kind of brought it into modern day advertising.
And probably any poor businessman.
Right. Right.
Let me see what I can do what that guy's doing. I want to make some money.
Right. Well, because at the end of the day, though, it is a pretty simple concept. It's about attracting people who like you.
Right.
And so, when you build a brand, it's about an emotional connection.
Right.
Man, that emotion.
Well, that's why people buy things. They don't buy things for any reason other than emotional. They may use logic to justify it.
That's right.
But it's emotion that drives the decision.
Well, think about that, folks. The Jaci Russo, thank you for your time.
Thank you. See you next week.
All right, coming up now on 7:55.